I read this article, and I couldn't help but think to myself about my dad. My dad used to be, he's retired now, but he used to be a high school varsity volleyball and basketball, ladies basketball coach at a little town in the northwest part of the state, Nebraska, called Hemingford. He coached them for, I want to say, and I know I'm going to get this wrong, but he coached them for probably a good, again, I'm spitballing, a good 10 years. And they were terrible. They were terrible before he started coaching them. And that's the thing. Quit. He didn't quit. He was kind of forced out. And even a little tiny school like Hemingford High School fell ill to the effects of the social media demons. Twitter baby, short-sighted, infantile, temerarious Twitter kittens. Because when he went in there, and I don't know how many winless, or not winless, but losing seasons they had, and the basketball team especially, he took them deep into the playoffs. They had only like a 3-loss season, and they just progressively got better and better with each one of the seasons that he was there. And naturally, you had the dictator, or the armchair. You had the armchair coaches who were just, even though he was winning, always was biased and very aggressive in what he should be doing, how he should be substituting. You're not using my daughter the proper way. You're taking her out when you shouldn't be taking her out. And to my understanding, it was only a good 3 or 4 parents, disgruntled parents, that were upset about the way he was coaching, even though he basically turned the program around. The power of just those two was enough to put pressure on the school administrators to begin putting pressure on him. It was a battle he didn't want, taking on these couch potato coaches, if you will. He just didn't want to do it, so he quit. My point is, I was reading this article by the Corn Nation. It was one of the Frosted Flakes, written by Johnston. I had so many thoughts as I was reading this article, because a lot of it was stemmed around the Twitter post that was basically saying the Little Red alternative uniforms against Oklahoma, which was 100% fake. But apparently, I don't have Twitter, but apparently the outrage was just insane. And the second half of and I'm going to read this to you, the second half of the article is basically, we are at a point where nothing Nebraska can do is correct. Nothing is right. It's all wrong. And I'll read this. It doesn't matter what Scott Frost says or does. It doesn't matter what the athletic department says or does. It doesn't matter, because everything Nebraska says or does is wrong. And again, I'm not going to read this entire article. I could. Like I said, Nebraska fans don't have a sense of humor anymore. I don't know if they ever did. And it's like when I see the national media or the mainstream media, almost kind of scoff and just be dismissive of the relevance of Nebraska football. You can tell that they enjoy it. Why do you think that is? I love the Nebraska fans in the sense of they're unique. You gotta love and appreciate how classy and respectful they are, and they're legendary for that. Bobby Bowden, his wonderful quote of how much he appreciated the Nebraska fans. Ricky Williams being shocked by him being clapped off the field, when they beat Nebraska on their home field in 1998. It's hard not to love those things. However, I actually read somebody say on a YouTube comment that actually was extremely poignant and spot on. When Scott Frost talks about the changing of a culture, the internal culture, the administrative, the players themselves, the coaches, the unity, all that jazz. When they talk about that stuff, it's not just the players. It's not just the players. It's not just the administrative. It's not just how the front office works, Everybody's subverting, or certain administrators are subverting other administrators because they want credit, people with ginormous egos that want it to be all about them. That includes the fan base. The fan base. You're a part of that culture too, in the sense that it doesn't take a rocket science to understand true toxic human beings. And a lot of these toxic human beings who either want credit or, it tickles their ego when they're validated that they might be correct about something that was wrong with a play call or whatever, the attachment to negative energy. It's too easy. If you see a play that went for 10 yards and went for a first down, to come out and say, "Now, if you would have done this, it would have been a touchdown. So, no, it's a bad play. It's a bad play." Part of that culture is the fan base. And y'all toxic individuals, you ain't helping nothing. That just want to be heard on social media. You guys that just want to just spit negative energy and have no sense of humor anymore, and are completely blinded by what's truly going on. I like where these guys are at, just because I love the fact that you got a Tom Osborne that can be out there on the field on a regular basis at practice and is welcome like it's his home still. All the old players, Adam True, guys are being able to come out in the field anytime they want, talk to some of the new players. You got Trev Alberts as the AD. You got, obviously former player Scott Frost, a Nebraska guy. Whatever, you got all that stuff. How can you not love that stuff? Like, even if Nebraska may never be what it was in the 90s again. I mean, come on, that was an insane time. The 95 team is probably the best team of all time. That's like a 0.1% in the totality of the universe. You know what I mean? That stretch, I think, is still a record from, 93 to 97? Like, no, we're not going to get back to the 90s. We're just not. But that doesn't mean we can't be good again. That doesn't mean we can't have a solid family-oriented foundation again. We, at the end of the day, know, it's almost like we want to be recognized. We want to be recognized by all the national media as basically being looked at as Alabama again, Well, Alabama obviously arguably has one of the greatest runs of all time, which is it's going back to that 0.1%, that is extremely rare. My man George Carlin, miss that guy. When he used to talk about pride, and he used to say, pride doesn't live in anything that's happenstance. Pride is only reserved for what you earn. And I love that. It's only reserved for what you earn. If you happen to be born in America, if you happen to be born in Nebraska, or if you happen to be born a certain race, if you happen to be born a particular sex, that's happenstance. Like, that's not where pride lives. Pride lives in something that you earned. And I'm sorry, Nebraska fans, you didn't earn becoming a Nebraska fan. Those boys that are in there working every single day trying to win games, they're the ones that earn, they're the ones that deserve that pride. So I shouldn't say that I'm proud to be a Nebraska fan. What I should say, I appreciate the way Tom Osborne did it. He didn't do it fast food style. He built dudes from the ground up. And that's sustainable. Anything done from the ground up while paying homage to the area that you're in is what true community is. That's true family. When I see what these guys are doing, to me, that's what they're doing. They're bringing it back. They're playing the long game, and they're bringing back the true family. Does that mean that it's, they'll be the 90s Nebraska again? Probably not, because that was pretty damn impressive. Like what Alabama's doing right now, that's pretty damn impressive. Location matters, but I feel like Tom Osborne, not only did he do it the right way, but I also felt like, to me, he is the greatest coach of all time. Now, granted, that is pretty biased, but to me, he was, because to me, he did more with less. You know, you see a guy like Nick Saban, you see guys, some of these other coaches, like, dude, they're borderline NFL teams. You know, yeah, Osborne got, you know, a Frazier, a Lawrence Phillips, and Amon Green. Like, yeah, he got some top-notch players, you know, that were highly recruited. But only a couple, only a few, only a handful here and there. What were the majority of the players? The majority of the players that became their big-time players were walk-ons. Built them up over a 3-year period or whatever, and they ended up becoming All-Americans. Appreciate being a fan of the family. Appreciate the family. I'd rather be a fan of the family as opposed to really giving a damn about the prestige that comes with what the 90s team was or what the Alabama team is now or Ohio State. I appreciate quality, not quantity, not borderline. I have a hard time giving tons of respect to borderline NFL teams. The Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias. I root for those teams that pay homage to their area and give almost kids that don't have a chance or normally don't get a chance. Give them a chance to grow them up and raise them physically and mentally. The one thing Osborne took advantage of was a lot of those disenfranchised kids that came out of Compton, came out of LA, came out of, you know, inner city Jersey. You know, a lot of those kids that were considered problem kids that couldn't get their grades up, he gave them a chance. And Lawrence Phillips is a great example of that. Like, that's what's cool. You know, I could care less if you're getting 5, 10, 30 stars next to your name. You know, if that's all you're going for. Nah. You build these kids up from the ground up. Walk-ons, 3 stars, whatever. That's a true family. And when the family's willing to die for each other, that's something I can get behind and appreciate. Anyway, guys, you know how it works. I got a couple videos coming out doing my all-time Nebraska defense. At least the players that I would love to see on a starting unit that I've ever seen. And basically, I can't wait for this season. As this season progresses and goes on, I'm going to do reactions of every single game coming up this season. Not impulsive reactions. I'm going to go through and do what I normally do anyway. And go through each game, watch it several times. And then I'll break them down. I'll not really break them down, but you know, just give my reactions, my interpretations. Look at some specific videos, or not videos, but specific occurrences or storylines that happen in the game. Yeah. And so anyway, like I said, you know how it works. Hit the bell, hit the subscribe button, all that YouTube stuff. And yeah, thanks guys.